Sometimes the things you call just my personality are actually scars you never healed from. The way you react, the way you protect yourself, the way you love, it's not random, it's a story your mind keeps retelling, long after the pain ended. But here's the twist. Most of us don't even realize it. We think we've moved on, we tell ourselves we are fine, we laugh about our coping mechanisms like they're quirks. But what if those quirks are the echoes of your past? What if the way you overthink, over-apologize, or shut down isn't who you are, but who you had to become to survive? We are about to dive deep into the habits you think are normal, but are actually signs of old wounds still bleeding beneath the surface. Because trauma doesn't always show up as flashbacks or tears. Sometimes it hides in politeness, in perfectionism, in pretending everything's okay. It lives in the small ways you silence yourself or the big ways you sabotage your peace. And once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about finally understanding yourself. Because the truth is, healing doesn't start when the pain stops. It starts when you recognize where the pain still lives. So stay with me. Over the next few minutes, we're going to uncover 9 everyday habits that quietly reveal past trauma. Some of these might hit harder than you expect, but each one will help you connect the dots between who you were and who you're becoming. And by the end of this video, you might realize that the parts of you once thought were broken were actually just trying to keep you safe. The hidden patterns we don't notice. Here's the thing. Most people walk around every day carrying things they can't see. Not physical weight, but emotional weight. We think trauma only belongs to people who've gone through something dramatic or life-shattering. But trauma isn't always about the big moments. Sometimes it's the quiet ones, the times you were ignored, misunderstood, or made to feel like your feelings were too much. It's the small cuts that never got cleaned, so they never really healed. That's why trauma is so sneaky. It hides inside what looks like normal behavior. You tell yourself, I'm just shy, when deep down you learn to stay quiet, because speaking up once got you hurt. You say, I don't like depending on anyone, when in truth, every time you did, someone let you down. You call yourself a people pleaser, but really that's just the version of you that had to keep the peace to feel safe. We grow up thinking these patterns define us, when they're actually defense mechanisms that helped us survive. And that's what makes this conversation so important. Because once you start seeing how your habits connect to your past, everything begins to make sense. The overthinking, the over-explaining, the constant need to be in control, it's not because you're broken or dramatic. It's because, at some point, you had to protect yourself from chaos, rejection, or pain. This isn't about judging yourself. It's about finally understanding yourself. Because self-awareness is the first step toward healing. When you can look at your habits and say, wait, this came from somewhere, you stop seeing them as flaws and start seeing them as clues. Clues that point to the parts of you that still need care, patience, and forgiveness. So, as we go through these 9 habits, don't use them as a reason to criticize yourself. Use them as a mirror, a way to see your past with compassion, not shame. Because once you understand the why behind your behaviors, you unlock the power to change them. And that's when real healing begins, not by erasing your past, but by making peace with it. Over-explaining everything. Have you ever caught yourself explaining something way more than you needed to? Like you tell someone why you were late, but you keep going, adding extra details they didn't even ask for, just to make sure they don't get the wrong idea. That's not just a communication habit. That's self-protection disguised as clarity. Over-explaining is what happens when your brain has been trained to believe that being misunderstood is dangerous. Somewhere in your past, maybe you were blamed for things you didn't do, or made to feel like your intentions never mattered. So now, you try to control how people see you, one explanation at a time. When you've experienced emotional invalidation, when your feelings were brushed off, twisted, or punished, you learn to defend them before anyone can question them. You start justifying every move, every word, every emotion, because deep down, you don't trust that people will give you the benefit of the doubt. And the sad part is, this habit often makes you feel smaller, not safer. You walk away from conversations exhausted, replaying every word, wondering if you said too much or not enough. Over-explaining isn't about honesty, it's about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as too much. It's the voice inside you saying, if I can just make them understand, maybe they won't get mad, maybe they won't leave. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone a novel to justify your existence. Your boundaries, your decisions, your emotions, they're valid even without an explanation attached. Healing from this habit starts with learning to pause. The next time you catch yourself spiraling into over-explanation, remind yourself, I'm allowed to be misunderstood. That sentence alone is freedom, because the people who truly care about you won't need a perfect explanation to believe in your intentions. They'll just know. And the moment you stop defending yourself for simply being you, that's when you start reclaiming the power you once gave away just to feel safe. Apologizing too much. Have you ever noticed how the word sorry slips out of your mouth almost automatically? You bump into someone, sorry. Someone bumps into you, still sorry. You speak your mind, sorry for saying too much. You take up space, sorry for existing in it. At first, it seems harmless, even polite. But when you look closer, constant apologizing isn't kindness, it's fear. It's the residue of a life spent trying to avoid rejection, disappointment, or conflict at all costs. When you grow up in environments where expressing yourself led to tension, blame, or punishment, your nervous system learns that peace must be protected at all times, even if it means sacrificing your voice. You start apologizing, not because you did something wrong, but because you want to make sure no one gets upset. You want to keep everyone comfortable, even when it makes you uncomfortable. That's not weakness, that's survival. You learned that the easiest way to stay safe was to shrink. But here's a hidden cost. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your sense of worth. You begin to believe that your existence requires constant justification, that your emotions are inconveniences, that being yourself is something to apologize for. And that's not true. You're not sorry for speaking up. You're not sorry for having boundaries. You're not sorry for needing space, or quiet, or rest. You're human. The truth is, you don't owe sorry for things that don't require forgiveness. You owe yourself compassion for why that habit exists in the first place. You were conditioned to keep the peace, not to keep yourself small. Healing starts when you begin replacing those automatic apologies with honesty. Instead of, I'm sorry, try, thank you for understanding. Instead of sorry for bothering you, say, I appreciate your time. These small shifts remind your mind and your world that your presence isn't a burden. You don't need to apologize for existing, for feeling, for needing, or for being. The ones who truly value you won't make you earn your place with endless forgiveness. They'll make space for you, as you are. And when you stop apologizing for being yourself, you start remembering that you were never wrong for simply being. Difficulty accepting compliments. When someone gives you a compliment, do you instantly brush it off? Maybe you say, oh, it's nothing, or I just got lucky, or you quickly change the subject because it feels uncomfortable. On the surface, it looks like humility, but deep down, it's something else. It's a quiet belief that you don't deserve to be seen in a positive light, that praise is something meant for other people, not you. This is one of the most overlooked signs of past emotional wounds, because when you've lived through experiences that made you feel small, kindness can start to feel suspicious. If you grew up being criticized more than encouraged, your brain got used to scanning for flaws, not appreciation. Compliments might even make you tense up, like you're waiting for the but that usually follows. You did great, but next time, you look nice, but you could have tried harder. That pattern teaches you that kindness isn't safe. It's temporary. It comes with conditions. So when someone genuinely acknowledges your worth, your instinct isn't to accept it, it's to doubt it. Trauma distorts your self-image. It makes you see yourself through the lens of old pain, not present truth. You learn to minimize your achievements before anyone else can, just to avoid being disappointed or criticized again. But the danger is, over time, you start rejecting love in all its forms, compliments, affection, opportunities, because they don't fit the story you've been told about yourself. The first step to healing this habit isn't forcing yourself to believe every compliment, it's learning to pause instead of deflect. The next time someone says something kind, don't rush to deny it. Just say, thank you, let it sit there, even if it feels strange. You don't have to fully believe it yet, you just have to stop running from it, because every time you allow kindness in, you teach your brain that love isn't dangerous anymore. You deserve to be seen, appreciated, and celebrated, not for what you do, but for who you are. And the moment you stop pushing away the good things, you make space for healing, for confidence, and for the kind of self-worth that no one can take from you. Always feeling the need to stay busy. Do you ever feel like you can't stop moving? Like the moment you slow down, something inside you starts to feel heavy or uncomfortable, so you fill your time with tasks, distractions, goals, anything to keep your mind from sitting still. On the surface, it looks like ambition or discipline, but underneath, it's something deeper. It's productive anxiety, the habit of staying busy, so you don't have to sit alone with your thoughts. When you've been through pain that you never fully processed, stillness can feel unsafe, because in stillness, your mind finally has the space to bring up the emotions you buried, the sadness, the anger, the memories you've been trying to outrun. So instead, you keep running, you work longer hours, you fill every gap in your schedule, you tell yourself you're just being driven, but secretly, it's about control. Because as long as you're doing something, you don't have to feel everything. This kind of busyness can even look like success to others. People might praise you for how hardworking you are, not realizing that your productivity is powered by avoidance, not peace. And the problem with that is, it never ends. No matter how much you do, it never feels like enough, because the emptiness you're avoiding doesn't go away, it just waits. True healing begins when you stop treating rest like a reward you have to earn. Stillness isn't laziness, it's presence. It's sitting with your mind and letting it breathe, even when what comes up is uncomfortable. At first it'll feel strange, maybe even scary, but slowly, you start realizing that what you were running from wasn't as dangerous as you thought. It was just your own pain, asking to be heard. You don't have to feel every moment to prove your worth. You don't have to earn your peace through exhaustion. You deserve rest simply because you exist. The moment you allow yourself to slow down, not just physically, but emotionally, you start breaking the cycle. You stop surviving, and you start healing. And in that quiet space, you finally remember what it feels like to just be, without having to constantly do. Struggling to trust people. Trust is supposed to be natural. It's what connects us, builds love, and makes relationships feel safe. But when you've been betrayed, abandoned, or neglected, Trust stops feeling natural. It starts feeling dangerous. Your brain learns that vulnerability leads to pain, so it builds walls instead of bridges. And after a while, those walls become so familiar that you mistake them for safety. When someone you depended on let you down, especially when it happened repeatedly, your mind started preparing for disappointment before it even arrived. You stopped expecting people to stay. You stopped believing their promises. You started analyzing every word, every action, just waiting for the moment they'd prove your fear right. Because when betrayal becomes part of your story, expecting the worst feels like protection. The problem is, that same defense mechanism that once kept you safe also keeps you isolated. You might crave deep connection, but the moment someone gets too close, your alarms go off. You question their motives. You pull back emotionally. You test them without even realizing it, because deep down you're scared they'll hurt you the way others did. And when people eventually sense that distance, they might step away, confirming the very fear you were trying to avoid. Learning to trust again isn't about pretending your past didn't happen. It's about teaching your brain that not everyone is the same, that the people who broke you are not the standard by which you measure everyone else. Trust doesn't come back all at once. It's built one small moment at a time. It starts with letting someone show up for you and noticing that the world didn't end when they did. You're not cold or difficult to love. You're someone who learned the hard way that love can hurt, but now you get to relearn that love can also heal. You don't have to tear your walls down overnight. Just start by cracking a window. Let people in slowly. Let them prove that safety still exists, because even after everything, your heart still deserves the chance to trust again, and this time to be right about it. People pleasing, you tell yourself, you just want to make everyone happy. You want peace. You want harmony. You want everyone around you to feel good. But deep down, people pleasing isn't about kindness. It's about safety. It's a habit that was born in chaos, in homes or relationships where love was conditional and emotions were unpredictable. You learned early on that if you could just keep everyone calm, agreeable, and satisfied, maybe you'd be safe too. When you've spent years walking on emotional eggshells, your nervous system becomes wired to anticipate danger in people's moods. A sigh, a change in tone, or a look of disappointment feels like a threat, so you jump into action. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. You agree to things you don't want. You suppress your needs just to keep the peace. And when people praise you for being so easygoing or so helpful, part of you feels proud, but another part of you feels empty, because deep down, you know it's not real peace. It's silence. It's survival. People-pleasing comes from a deep fear of abandonment. You're not trying to control others. You're trying to control their reaction to you. You want to be seen as good, useful, lovable, because somewhere in your past, being anything else meant rejection, anger, or punishment. But the cost is that you disappear a little more each time you say yes when you mean no. You lose yourself, trying to keep everyone else comfortable. Healing starts when you realize that your worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval. You don't have to earn love by overgiving. You don't have to fix people's emotions just to feel secure. Real peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from being authentic, even when it makes others uncomfortable. The truth is, not everyone will like you, and that's okay. The goal isn't to please everyone, it's to be real with yourself, because the moment you stop living to be liked, you start living to be free, and that's when you finally remember what it feels like to belong to yourself, not just to everyone else. Avoiding conflict at all costs. Some people think avoiding conflict means you're calm, mature, or the bigger person, but often it's not peace, it's fear. When you've been punished, dismissed, or shamed for speaking up in the past, your brain learns that conflict equals danger. So now, when tension rises, your instinct isn't to communicate, it's to disappear. You shut down, you go quiet, you agree just to end the conversation, even if it means swallowing your truth. This habit usually starts in environments where your voice didn't matter. Maybe as a child, every time you tried to express frustration or sadness, you were told to stop overreacting, or maybe speaking up only made things worse, so you learned to stay silent, to stay safe. That silence became your armor. You told yourself, it's better to lose an argument than to lose someone you care about. But what you didn't realize is that you were losing yourself instead. Avoiding conflict doesn't make problems disappear, it just buries them alive. And those unspoken feelings don't vanish, they build up as resentment, anxiety, or emotional distance. You start avoiding not just arguments, but vulnerability itself, because honesty feels risky. You become overly cautious, reading every tone, every expression, trying to predict when things might explode. It's exhausting to live that way, to constantly monitor peace that isn't even real. Healing from this means teaching your nervous system that disagreement isn't destruction, that you can express your needs without losing love. Healthy conflict isn't chaos, it's communication. It's saying, this hurt me, or I need something different, without the world falling apart. The next time you feel yourself shutting down, pause and remind yourself, it's safe to have a voice. You don't have to scream to be heard. You just have to speak honestly. The right people won't punish you for having boundaries. They'll respect you for it. And slowly, you'll start to see that true peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from being able to stand in truth and still feel safe. Because your voice was never the problem. It was just waiting for a time when it was finally safe to be used. Emotional numbness. There's a kind of pain that doesn't make you cry. It just makes you feel nothing at all. Emotional numbness isn't about not caring, it's about caring so deeply that your mind had to shut the feelings off to survive. When life felt too overwhelming, too much loss, too much disappointment, too much fear, your brain did what it thought was best. It hit the emergency switch. It said, we can't handle this right now, and so it disconnected you from your emotions. Back then that numbness protected you. It kept you functioning when breaking down wasn't an option. It allowed you to keep going, to keep smiling, to keep living when feeling everything might have destroyed you. But the thing about survival mechanisms is they don't know when the danger is over. So even now, when life is safer, your mind might still be stuck in defense mode, keeping your emotions at arm's length. You don't feel extreme sadness or joy anymore. Everything just feels flat. The hardest part about emotional numbness is that it doesn't just block out pain, it blocks out love, excitement, and connection too. People might see you as calm or unbothered, but inside you feel disconnected from everything and everyone. You want to feel, but you're scared of what might come up if you do, so you stay in the middle, safe, but empty. Healing begins with patience. You can't force emotions to return by demanding them. You have to create space for them to feel safe again. Start small. Notice moments that stir even the slightest reaction. Music, nature, laughter, and allow yourself to sit with it. Don't judge it, don't push it away, just let it be there. The goal isn't to flood yourself with feelings, it's to remind your heart that it's safe to feel again. Numbness isn't brokenness, it's protection that overstayed its welcome. The same part of you that learned to shut down can learn to open back up. It takes time, gentleness, and a lot of self-compassion, but eventually, the walls you built to survive become doors you can walk through. And when that happens, you realize that feeling again isn't something to fear, it's something to be grateful for. It means you've come back to life. Self-sabotage. You want peace. You say you're ready for happiness, for stability, for love that feels safe. But when it finally shows up, something inside you starts to panic. Suddenly, you pick fights for no reason, you procrastinate on the opportunities you prayed for, you pull away from the people who genuinely care. It's not because you want to ruin things, it's because deep down, peace feels unfamiliar, and what's unfamiliar often feels unsafe. When you grow up in chaos, whether it's emotional neglect, constant conflict, or unpredictable love, your nervous system adapts to that environment. It learns to survive in tension, not calm. So when life finally gives you quiet, your brain doesn't know what to do with it. It mistakes peace for boredom and stability for danger. It starts looking for something to fix, something to worry about, something to break, because chaos feels like home. That's what self-sabotage really is. It's your mind trying to return to what feels normal, even if it hurts you. You're not lazy or broken, you're just used to relationships that drain you, jobs that overwhelm you, or situations that keep you on edge. So when things finally go right, your subconscious says, "This can't be real," and without even realizing it, you start creating problems to match your old sense of safety. Healing from this habit means teaching yourself that calm isn't the same as danger, it's the absence of it. It means learning to sit in peace without waiting for the next storm. When good things happen, remind yourself, "I'm safe here, I don't have to ruin it." That simple awareness starts to rewire your brain. It takes time to believe you deserve stability when you've only known survival, but you do. You deserve relationships that don't hurt, success that doesn't drain you, and peace that doesn't feel foreign. The key is realizing that comfort doesn't always come from what's good for you, it comes from what's familiar, and the moment you start choosing what's healthy instead of what's familiar, that's when you stop reliving your trauma and start rewriting your story. The truth is, trauma doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it whispers through your habits. It hides in your tone, your reactions, your fears, and your silence. It's not always obvious, but it's there in the way you love, the way you protect yourself, and the way you move through the world. Most of us don't realize we're still carrying pieces of the past until we finally stop running and look closely at the patterns we call just who I am. But healing starts the moment you recognize those whispers for what they are, because once you see them, you can no longer live on autopilot. You start catching yourself in the act, over-apologizing, overworking, pulling away, and asking, "What am I really afraid of?" That question alone is power. Healing isn't loud or dramatic, it's quiet, gradual, and deeply personal. It's choosing to respond differently, even when your mind is begging you to react the same old way. It's forgiving yourself for the times you didn't know better, and learning that your coping mechanisms were never weakness. They were proof that you survived. You're not broken, you're just someone who learned how to adapt, and now, you're learning how to heal. So which of these habits hit the hardest for you? Which one made you stop and think, "That's me"? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know how many of you saw yourselves in this, because the first step to healing is awareness, and sometimes, just naming what hurts is enough to start letting it go. And if you want more videos that help you understand yourself on a deeper level, hit subscribe, because the next one might just change how you see your past forever.